Okay. Today we're gonna start on Nun Amud Beis, correct? 50B. Okay. Good morning. Thank Hashem. I'm very much learn Torah every day. And this Choshev learning Hashem Beis Mikdash. Needed for learning Lili Nishmas, Rabbi Golden Bastar Binyamin, and Son of Ben Zion. And for playing for Rabbi David Ben Sarah and Gedali Getzel Elias Ben Tigitz. Okay. It's an interesting in this Gemara. The Gemara looks like it's quoting the Mishnah, like it does when it has two dots. It has two dots and then has another two dots, like three or four words ahead. It looks like that's a quote from the Mishnah. It turns out, according to the Rashbam, that the Gemara is actually saying this in question form, in astonishment. It says, a man doesn't have a chazak in his wife's field. We would never read this in the way we would read a regular Gemara. Usually, is that how they have? Do they have a question mark, exclamation mark over there? They, oh, really? So they're not learning, huh? A surprise mark. So they're not reading it like the Rashbam. I don't know. Okay. A man doesn't have a chazaka in his wife's property. That means that a wife doesn't need to protest. A man not having a chazaka in his wife's property means that even though the wife did not protest, the man still does not have a chazaka. The man having a chazaka in his wife's property means that the wife does need to protest. The Gemara says, but Rav says that a woman does need to protest. So how could the Mishnah say that a man doesn't have a chazak in his wife's property? But Rav says that a woman has to protest. Okay, so the case is like this: that a woman owns a property. What's the problem?
The opposite of what is.
Okay, woman owns a property, and the husband claims that she sold it to him. So we say, okay, where's the document? He says, well, I was there for 3 years, so I don't have to hold on to the document anymore. And she didn't say anything. She didn't protest. So obviously it's mine. Now, well, yesterday we had a whole discussion that, of course, this was obvious. He was there for the fruits, right? We said he was eating fruits. So, Yusufert property. So now, of course, there's no chazak. Anyway, that's going to come up again over today. But over here, we're saying, Rav says that a woman needs to protest if her husband's in. If she doesn't protest, then the husband should have a chazak. So Gemara says, 1 second. What was Rav referring to? The man. What did Rav mean that the woman needs to protest so that there's no chazak? What was he referring to? Let's say we're talking about someone else, not her husband, is living in her property. She has an apartment somewhere. Someone's living there. So you can't say. So how would we explain this? We would explain that Rav says that a woman needs to protest. A married woman needs to protest. Have a guy living in this woman's property, in her apartment. If she doesn't protest, the guy's going to claim ownership of it. So she has to protest. The problem is that Rav has another statement that says that you can't make a chazaka in a married woman's property. The reason for that is because she says the fact that I didn't protest was because I was relying on my husband. So 1 second. So this is like a compounded problem. I have a Mishnah that says that a man doesn't have a chazaka in his wife's property.
It's a circular argument.
Yeah, well, I can't match these statements together. Mishnah says that a man doesn't have a chazaka. Rav says that a woman needs to protest. And I also have a statement that you can't make a chazaka even if I'm going to try to resolve this problem by saying a man doesn't have a chazaka in his wife's property. Rav says that a woman needs to protest. I would be talking about someone else. Protest against someone else, not the husband, but against someone that would resolve it. But I have another statement from Rav that when someone else makes a chazaka in the wife's property, the wife can say the reason why I didn't protest because I was relying on the husband. So there's no chazaka there either. So the one statement that says that a woman needs to protest doesn't fit with anything. So elalav babal, it must be talking about that when Rav says that a woman needs to protest, she needs to protest against her husband, making a chazaka in her own property. The problem is that Rav would be arguing on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that a man doesn't have a chazaka in his wife's property.
I thought that they had to make a wholesale thing.
This adds, which Taisvus is that?
I think that he would also protest because they would also like endanger him in the heritage.
I know, because I should not protest because she thought her husband would protest for acting good. Since his rights to the produce of the property are being violated and his chance of inheriting it. It would be natural for him to protest. Okay, so he's quoting to me, Hillel's showing me a note here in the article that's explaining that the reason why she's relying on her husband to protest is because the husband doesn't want his own inheritance to be threatened. He would inherit his wife, so that's why it's not just that she relies on the husband to do everything, to take out the garbage. It's the husband that is losing by someone else coming in, because he's supposed to be eating the fruits. He's supposed to be inheriting her, and now someone else is coming in, so she was relying on him to protest. Yeah.
And wouldn't the husband be like 3 years and the claim that he bought the property?
Right.
But here they're not talking. Like, this is to me it looks like just a squatter. Like there was no sale.
So the guy's going to claim that I bought it. Yeah. In all of these cases, so the guy claims that I bought it from you. Either I bought it from the husband, or I bought it who bought it from you, or I bought it straight from you, or whatever. There's always a claim behind this. Otherwise, there's no chazaka. So the Gemara says that elalav bebal. It must be that we're talking about with the husband. Now, if we're talking about with the husband, then we're back to our original question, that the Mishnah says that a man does not have a chazaka in his wife's property. Rav says that a woman needs to protest against her husband, otherwise there would be a chazak. It's a contradiction. Amar Rava says Loilam Abal. Really, Rav was referring to the husband. The husband is making a chazak in his wife's property, and the woman needs to protest. Ukagain, and it's a special case. Normally, a husband does not have a chazak in his wife's property, but over here, he's doing damage to the property. Now, normally, when you do damage to the property, here it says he's digging pits in the property. Do damage to the property, you say the reason why I didn't protest is because you're not living in it in the way that an owner lives in it, so obviously it's not yours.
Well, he just has to bring proof.
Yeah, but we're talking about when there is no proof.
So you can't fall back on.
So we're saying that the reason why he doesn't have proof because it's been 3 years.
This built-in still doesn't come to an acquisition. Yeah.
When it would come to taking it in a proper field, this would be taking acquisition. Here we're trying to show that no, he's making a chazaka, he's doing things that she would never allow.
This is the husband?
The husband, yeah.
His wife's field.
So it means this isn't part of improving the property to make it produce more fruit.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. For some reason, he's doing something to destroy it.
Right, right. So the husband normally is allowed to eat the fruits. When the
Right.
husband eats the fruits, that doesn't show any sort of chazaka. But over here, he's doing things that he has no rights to do, and so therefore this is showing chazaka.
It can't be that he's doing this like to have his own water for the field.
Maybe let's take a look. The Gemara says, "V'amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Baravua, ein chazaka l'nezaken." Rav Nachman says the name of his father-in-law, Rav Baravua, that there's no such thing as a chazaka for nezaken. If someone makes a, if someone is doing something in a property, and then he tells the neighbor says, "Can you please stop? They're disturbing everyone, all the neighbors." So the guy says, "Well, I've been doing this for many, many years. No one's ever stopped me. It's because I purchased it from the rights to do this from you years ago, and you allowed me to do this, or you were Michaelai, or purchased it. Basically, you never protested, and this is the way I do things." So Rav Nachman says, "Well, it depends. If it's something that's damaging, ain't chazaka l'nezaken. The fact that we didn't say anything doesn't mean that we really agree. There's no chazaka for damage." So here, what we're saying is that why should he have a chazaka for damaging that when he's damaging the property? We're sort of switching the meaning of this. In chazaka l'nezaken normally means the rights to do something damaging in a property, in your own property. That's really what the way it was taken originally.
You don't
Now
have to show the burden of proof.
You don't have to show the burden of proof. Exactly, exactly. But here we're using it to mean ein chazaka l'nezaken. It means that it shouldn't be considered a chazaka. The fact that he's digging holes in the property.
Is this the understanding generally of Nixay Malug, that the husband can put a ladder in to pick fruit off the trees, but he can't dig a ditch to bring water to irrigate the trees?
No, he would be allowed to do things that would be beneficial. Here we're saying that it's a field that's not meant to have ditches in it. Yeah, the Rashbam spells that out. How does he write that? Talking about a field that doesn't need pits in it. It has enough rainwater. It has channels that are feeding it already. Yeah. Yeah, when he wants the water, or for whatever, he wants the pits. So he's doing something that's good for him, but it's not good for the field. Yeah.
I hear what it's saying, but not too many pages ago, we learned the difference between a field that's lives off rainwater and a field that lives off irrigated water.
Right.
The one off rainwater was inferior because it tended to only have one crop a year.
Right, exactly. So that's what we would be referring to here. Yeah, I'm not sure if you could switch that. If it switches by.
Okay.
The Gemara answers this question: how can you say that this is considered a chazaka? He's doing damage. The problem is that ein chazaka l'nezaken. The Gemara answers ein din chazaka l'nezaken. The laws of chazaka don't apply to damages, which means normally a chazaka takes 3 years to show ownership. Over here, chazaka is immediate. The limitations of chazaka. Person would never allow someone to damage his field. So obviously, when he brings the what's it called, those excavators, when those things show up, when they start coming off the truck to do that, the wife would run out and say, "Get out of here! What are you doing to my field?" So there's a chazaka immediately. Rav Nachman said that there's no chazaka for nezaken. There's no laws of chazaka. There's no 3 years. But this would be a chazaka immediately. So that's what it would mean, that a woman needs to protest. That's what Rav would mean. A woman needs to protest. She would need to protest if the husband was doing damages to the property.
Because he could be improving.
Could be he's improving.
Construction, but
right.
Now,
right. Well, Iba Yasema, we can answer this a little differently as well. Lavitmar Allah, didn't we say about this? Rav Mariam Rav Bekutra of Zuram Beisakisi. This is the way we understood this originally. When there was a statement of Ein Chazakal and Azakan in the second chapter, we had this statement that was talking about if the neighbor has smoke, like the oven, that's darkening the walls of his neighbor. So the guy says, "Can you please stop using your oven, your barbecue, right against my my back wall?" So he says, "But I've been doing it for so many years." So he says, "Well, so what? Ain't chazaka and azakan. That doesn't mean you have a chazaka because it's damaging." The same thing would apply if there was if you set up a bathroom right opposite this guy's window. And in those days, it didn't go away. It just smelled worse and worse. So it'd say, can you please stop? And the guy says, but I've been doing this for so many years. He says, well, ain't chazaka and azakan. That doesn't mean that you have the rights to continue. So that's what now the Gemara is saying. It's not referring to creating a chazaka. And chazaka and azakan means for the damages itself in your own property, you don't have the rights to continue when it's directly damaging your neighbor. Okay, what that means for us is that if someone is creating damage in someone else's property, then that would create a chazak. He would be showing that he's the owner, he's doing whatever he wants in the property, and it would take 3 years, I guess. The first answer was that it was immediate. Second answer sounds like it would take 3 years, but that would be a chazak even in his wife's property. Rav Yosef Amar, you see, the two answers that we just gave is all in Rava. Rava says that both the Mishnah and Rav are referring to a husband that's trying to acquire his wife's property. The Mishnah says that he doesn't have a chazaka, and Rav says that he does have a chazaka. How do we explain Rav against the Mishnah? So Rav was talking about what he's doing is he's doing damage to the property. Rav Yosef says differently than Rava. He says that the statement of Rav was talking about not the husband is trying to acquire his wife's property. The statement of Rav is when an outsider is trying to acquire the property of a married woman. Really, he's talking about someone else. She could say that I thought my husband was going to protest. The reason why I didn't protest, I was relying on him. There really should be no chazaka because I was relying on him. So Kagoin shach lemiktas chazaka b'chaya bal, v'shalish lacher misas abal. Migudi ba yamar lei anazavint minach yam lei nami atzavint lei v'zavin nalei mehaman. So if the husband would be alive, then she could claim that the reason why I didn't protest was because I was relying on my husband to protest. The problem over here is that the husband died. And he was 3 years, this outsider was 3 years by the wife, by the widow, living in the property. So now why didn't she protest? That's what we're saying. So we said, one second, we said, Ashes ish tzricha limchais, but it's a problem because she's not an Ashes ish. If the chazaka is after the husband died, what does mean Ashes tzricha limchais? So the way the Gemara Rav Yosef is interpreting the statement of Rav is very interesting. The guy started to live in the property when the husband was alive, and what it means to tell me is that when the husband dies, she needs to protest. While the husband's alive, so she's relying on the husband, and maybe the husband had some arrangement with this guy, whatever. But whatever, that's not going to create a chazaka. We're saying now is that Ashes ish, a woman that was married. That's how we're switching it. When the husband dies, she needs to protest so that this outsider doesn't create a chazaka in the property.
3 years.
And the 3 years starts from the death of the husband. Yeah.
The wife would need to protest even if her husband's alive, because the husband just doesn't do anything unless his wife protests.
We're getting some advice over here, some marriage advice over here. that the husband doesn't do anything
Don't
unless
take my word.
the wife protests. So we're talking about protesting to the guy or protesting to the husband. You're saying that he protests to the husband. Yeah. She nags.
Yeah.
She nags. So, we're getting a comment over here that the wife has to nag the husband to protest, but that's not the protest that's out there in the street. Out there in the street, what gets put in the on the shul wall, on the bulletin board. So and so's in my property. That the husband's going to put up, not the wife. She puts it on the chat. What's that chat? Okay. So the Gemara concludes over here is that migu that the guy could have said, I bought it directly from you, lady. So he can also say, I bought it from your husband that you sold it to. Because he was in it beforehand. I bought it from your husband and you sold it to your husband.
Maybe he's just trying to make good title for himself. Maybe he came back to the wife because he realized getting it from the husband wasn't enough because she had
right.
Say Malug, or she had a lien on it. So he's trying to make his title good.
That's right. But he stayed there 3 years, which actually works. Sometime during those 3 years, she should have protested.
She should have.
Yeah.
So she can't rely on her husband to protest when he's the part of the problem. Is that what it's saying?
Well, the husband now has died.
Yeah, I'm saying and it was 3 years since her husband died?
Yeah, 3 years since the husband died.
Okay.
Yeah, the full 3 years. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why this Gemara has like a little twist in it, because we're trying, if it's a full 3 years since the husband died, so then what is the husband involved in this Gemara? Like, so it's irregular. No, because Rav said Eishasir Stricha Limches. We're talking about where the guy already started when the husband was alive. She's a married woman. And it's only afterwards that she needs to protest. We're trying to resolve that problem, that wording. Okay, Gufa. The Rashbam, at the very, very bottom of the Rashbam, at the very, very bottom of the page, 3 lines from the bottom. V'loidami la'aris. Naftali, you see that?
No, I
3
don't.
lines. The 3 lines on the bottom of the page.
Okay.
All the way on the bottom in the Rashbam. In the middle of the line. It says, it says, if this would be an aris, that she'in yachal litan lakach tevachritain, mishum destam aris einsman larisusa, yala kol yom materis larisusa yoimid. An aris, a sharecropper, he goes into a field, and he says, "Oh yeah," he says, "I have a chazaka." They said, "No, you don't. You're just a worker here. You're not the owner."
Right.
He said, "Well, I used to be a worker, but for the last 3 years, I'm the owner." So we say no. We say we didn't know anything about that. You're a worker. You're probably still a worker. He says, "Aval zeh shaloi kamei yesh amanashim yamas yafsid mikvei v'titul isha nechsei malug shelo hasam badik shmeis bal rezik liyerd achshem michadash l'sadi yishazu." He says, someone that buys something from a man, that if the husband is going to die, then the wife is going to take it away. Then the fact that the fact that there was such an obvious change in ownership here, when the husband dies and that now the property is totally in the woman's hands, so then the fact that she's quiet, so he's able to say that I bought it from him. He could say I bought it from you. He's able to say I bought it from him who bought it from you. Now, yeah, there is one slight question here. How does he say that he bought it from the husband that bought it from the wife? The husband doesn't have any chazak in his wife's property. We said that if he knew that it was there for 1 day, then that would be valid, right? Remember, I bought it from so-and-so that bought it from you. Well, how do you know that person bought it? Well, he lived there one day. But here, even that one day that the husband's there doesn't really mean that it's his, because the husband's in the wife's property because he owns the fruits. Okay, I mean that's my question. It doesn't mean that I'm sure the commentaries discuss that.
Well, wouldn't it result that the husband was there and they taken the produce?
But that's what he does, even not as an owner.
So we're thinking that he could be like a share property.
Yeah. So who's to say that the husband actually owned it? Usually, you have to say that the person that bought it from you was there one day. Here, the husband was only there eating fruits.
Maybe it's known that the wife owns it, and then
Wife owns it. So then, how did this guy buy it from the husband? He's claiming he bought it from the husband that bought it from you, from the wife. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's fine. We don't have to have an answer to the commentaries. We'll deal with that, and then Mitzvah Shem, one day you retire, you go to Kollel, you learn this Gemara in yeshiva, and you'll figure it out. This is just a pre-learning. Gufa was something that we mentioned before. Gufa is a statement of an Amayra that was mentioned in passing, and now we're going to analyze it a little bit more. Amar Rav said, can't make a chazaka in a married woman's property. Why not? Because she relies on the husband to protest. Daine Goyla Amru. Now, the Daine Goyla, this is the Gemara Sanhedrin from Naphtali, I think that you quoted to us. A Daine Goyla is Shmuel and Karna. Those are the Dayanim of the exile. They say machzik, and they say no, that you could make a chazak in a married woman's property. Amar Rav says halacha k'daine goyla. Halacha is like Shmuel and Karna. Amalei Rav Kana Rav Asi Rav. 1 second. Rav said before that you can't make a chazaka. Rav Kana Rav Asi, very classic. That they'll ask Rav, they'll challenge Rav. Remember the Gemara Sukkah, Yamidenu Kneged Reish Tor. That's Rav Kana Rav Asi. Rav said where to put the wall of the sukkah. This way. So put it on a diagonal. These Rav Kana and Rav Asi, they challenge Rav a lot. They're the students. Hadabei Mar Mishmaite, did the master change his mind? Amalahu Mistabra Amri Kid Rav Yosef. Probably what he meant was the way that Rav Yosef explained it. Now Rav Yosef was later than Rav, but the Gemara is shortening the explanation. And Rav Yosef said that what we're dealing with here is that there was a few years, he ate first, what it means that there's a chazaka, and you can make a chazaka in a woman's property. We're talking about after the husband passed away. Yeah.
So that he's adding that he could just say that he bought it from the wife.
Good.
And it would have been an easier claim.
Right.
Because he was there for 2 years.
So if we believe him to say that he bought it from the husband, and the husband bought it from the wife. Now, in order to say that, that only works if we know that the person that he bought it from lived there for 1 day. But the husband was never there 1 day. He was always there as eating the fruits. He never. That's my question. Okay. No, I don't know the answer. It's fine. A woman doesn't have chazaka in her husband's property. The Gemara says pshita. That's so obvious. She doesn't have chazaka in the husband's property. Of course not. She's eating. The husband is obligated to support her. So what do you say? Well, I've been here so many years. That means he sold it to me. No, he's supporting her. So it doesn't mean he sold it to her. He's just supporting her. That's why she's eating. The Gemara says, we're talking about where the husband gave her a special property for her sustenance. Now she's making a chazaka in another property, not the one that she's meant to be living off. Yeah. So in that, she's claiming that she has a chazaka. And comes along the Mishnah that says she doesn't have a chazaka. This is a chiddush. Her food is designated from one property. She's now making a chazaka in another property. The Mishnah says that she doesn't get the chazaka. Haraya yesh. But if she has a document, then that would be valid. She pulls out a document that says that I bought this from my husband, and here's a document that proves that would work. When asks the question, see, the Gemara has a discussion later on about does a man sell things to his wife just to find out where she's hiding the cash? Maybe this was just to figure out where's the money hidden. Yeah, she's taking every day she puts one coin in her purse. So he says he knows that he sees disappearing. So he says, okay, I'll sell you the property. Then she goes and she reels where the piggy bank is. So maybe when she pulls out a document that says my husband sold it to me, maybe that's not a real document. Maybe that was just a sale that was made up so that the husband should find out where the money is. Now, this is a discussion if this works. Whatever the case is, from our Mishnah, we have an answer that it does work. Why is there a discussion about this? We prove it from the Mishnah. Umar says, like, Ema haraya yesh b'shtar matana. If they would...
Figured they would just share their money.
The joint bank account. Yeah, nice. Doesn't always work like that. So,
Yeah.
So we're talking about over here that it's not a document of sale, it's a document of gift. If she would say that she was gifted the property, so then that obviously the husband didn't make that document to prove that she to figure out where she's keeping the piggy bank because he gifted it to her. So that's the document. All of this was an implication from saying that she doesn't have a chazaka. Doesn't have a chazaka, but a document probably would work. You said a document of sale would work, but maybe that whole sale. No, a document of gift would work. Okay. Amalei Rav Nachman Rav Huna. Have an interesting conversation, a back and forth over here between Rav Nachman and Rav Huna. Rav Nachman says to Rav Huna, he starts out with saying, Mar Gabon Boerta B'Tchuma, you weren't in the last night in the base medrash with us. Tamrin Mila Malais, we had a big chiddush. Had a nice new statement we said last night. It's a shame you weren't there. Amalei, Rav Huna says, my Mila Malais Amrisa, what was the nice chiddush that you said that came out from the discussion in the base medrash? This is Rav Nachman responding. Someone sells a field to his wife, Kansa, she acquires it. We don't say that he was just trying to figure out where she keeps the money. Amalei, so Rav Huna responds, says, I had to be there to hear that. Pshita, I know that anyway. Even if you delete the money from this equation, but there was a document. And the document is going to be valid. So forget the money. She acquires it anyways because of the document. Okay. Amalei, so Rav Nachman responds, the document that you're talking about that would work, that would be a document of gift. But when it comes to a document of sale, then you need both the document and the money. So what Shmuel says you have to give the money. Yeah. Seems like over here that the way he's quoting it is that even with the document, you still need to give the money. So Rav Huna responds, but doesn't Rav Hamnuna ask a question on that? says Bishtar, Ketzad, how does the document work? If he writes on a paper, or he writes on a pottery shard. Even if the document itself doesn't have any value, it's a cheap piece of paper, it's onion paper. Let's see what that aleph is. My field is sold to you, my field is gifted to you. It's automatically sold or gifted. So you don't need the money. So this is Rav Huna saying you don't need the money. The sale would be valid even with just the document. So Rav Nachman says, but didn't Rav Hamnuna also explain that when don't you need the money to make the sale final? That's if the person is selling the property because it's such a bad property, he wants to get rid of it. It's one of these things that he's trying to get rid of quickly. So over there, he's willing to say, okay, you'll pay me later. Just I want the sale to be final now because I don't want to have to deal with this later. It's like a car salesman. Says, okay, don't worry, you'll pay me later. It'll be a debt. We'll send it to collections. But they say that it's not that you can't be a used car salesman honest. It's not impossible to be an honest used car salesman. It's just that no one ever tried. Okay, whatever the case is, someone's selling a property that he's trying to get rid of. So then he doesn't mind that he doesn't receive the money right away. He's ready to make the sale final without getting all the money. But if it's a regular property, then he does want to get the money. So if that's the case, we're holding right now is that we do have a little chiddush here, because if by a regular field, you would need to give the money in order for the sale to be final. If that's the case, so then when a sale is done, even with a contract from husband to wife, it's possible that the reason why he's doing that is because he wants to find where the money is, and the kinyan would only be complete when the money is given. Now, if that's the case, then there is a chiddush here that we're saying that a person can sell a property to his wife, and the document will work as a proof. The document will work as a proof. But we don't say that he was just trying to get the money, even though we could claim that. But the chiddush is that we don't say that he was just trying to find out where she keeps the money. Rav Bibi Messiah Shmid Rav Nachman, they take that out over here. Rav Ashi Amar, Rav Ashi says, the matana bikish litanlai. That's really what's going on is, what's Rav Ashi explaining? That when it says, when the Gemara said that the question from Rav Havnuna, the person says, Sadi mechuralach, sadi knoya, sadi nesunalach. My field is sold to you, my field is gifted to you. What he really wants to do over the halacha is that it's considered sold and gifted. What really that's referring to is that, like this, the matana bikish litanlai. That's when someone's trying to make a sale, when someone's trying to give a gift. Why do you write it as a sale? That's to make it stronger. In case someone's going to come along and say that property had a lien on it and confiscate the property, that the person should be able to go back to the gifter. It's like when you get a gift that comes along with the receipt in case you want to return it. But this is not in case you want to return it. This is in case someone confiscates it, you can go back to the owner and get your money. In other words, the owner's giving such a good gift that you're able to get your money afterwards. The Rashbam adds in, if that's the case, then why do you have to say it as a gift? And Rashbam says that he's saying it as a gift because he wants to avoid anyone coming in to say that he has the rights to purchase that property first, because he is the bar metzra. And he's following the opinion that says that we don't say bar metzra by a gift. You know, the bar metzra, the neighbors has the first rights to purchase the property. That only applies if you're selling it. But if you're gifting it, then you can gift it to whoever you want. You don't have to gift it to your neighbor. Okay. Misvei, the Gemara has a question on the whole discussion here. Love him and avid b'shichrei. Someone borrows money from his own slave. B'shichrei. And then he frees the slave. Well, mina isha, if he borrows money from his own wife, the Gershon, then he divorces her. Ein lahem alav klum. They cannot claim the money back from the husband or master. My timer. What's the reason for this? What's the reason why he borrowed money from them? Not because he really needed the money. He wanted to get his own money back. He was claiming that the money that they had was all from him. So this is a kasha on what we're saying. We were saying that we don't say ligli is divided. We say that these are valid sales. All of this. The Gemara says, it's improbable that the person really was borrowing money from his wife, borrowing money from his slave. That's so improbable. So we say it must be that he was just trying to figure out where they kept the money. But to say that by every sale would be the same thing, that we don't say. A regular sale, we don't say that. It's just when he's borrowing money that we're going to say, because he wouldn't want to be indebted to his own slave, wouldn't be a slave to his own slave. Someone that borrows money is considered a slave to the creditor.
It kind of encourages divorce a little bit. Borrows money for his wife and then divorces her.
Remember that video, what not to say on the shidduch? Remember that guy? There's a guy, a very funny guy. Anyway.
Wasn't there an idea about the slave, like paying the master to free them? Like,
Yeah, he pays that afterwards. They would make a document and then he would pay it, probably pay it off. You're talking about a Jewish slave. A Jewish slave could buy himself free. Yeah, this is a non-Jewish slave. He has no. Okay, Shalach le Rav Huna bar Avin. Maybe we should leave it here. Want to learn tonight? Just a half a page.
Of course. Manishna halal hazeh.
Okay. Okay, we'll learn tonight. Even if it's just it's only 10 minutes. We'll learn tonight. What time is Myra? 8:20? 8:20. So we'll learn about 8:30, but we won't learn the whole time. We'll just learn for like 10-15 minutes just to finish the daf.
Okay, we'll try. We'll see.
Maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.